Welcome back to Spank Ranch Garage. Back on the buggy project. Just wrapped up the trailing arms. You probably already saw that video. Exhaust, intercooler, all that crap looking nice. Now it's time to get into a rear braking system and get a hydraulic clutch set up on the Subaru Trans. For this job, I'm going to be using mostly Wildwood components. I've had very good luck with them. They're made in the USA. 2-piston rear calipers. These things are stupid light. They're like, I don't know, 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds. They look very small, but piston surface area is actually pretty large. These are two fairly large pistons, more than you would see on most production cars. So being that this is a pretty light buggy, I think I'm going to be able to get away with a large 2-piston in the rear and maybe a single piston up front, something like that. In the case that this doesn't offer enough stopping power, I will put these in the front because I haven't designed brakes for that yet, and then we'll put a set of 4 pistons in the rear. Though I do expect these to work. I had these on a handbrake on a drift car, and I was able to lock the tires up at 100 miles an hour. No problem with these, so should be good. I went with their Polymatrix A pads. It makes a whole bunch of different pad compounds, and if you look at your temperature versus friction charts, you can kind of determine what's going to work for your needs. I like a low heat, high grab pad because I don't really plan on getting these things really hot. This isn't going to see a road course, something like that. For a clutch master cylinder, I went with their integral master. So this is just like what I typically use for hydraulic handbrakes and clutch master cylinders. It's just the reservoir's built in, very simple for a clutch. We have to do pedals too because I want to get out of the factory Volkswagen pedal game. Not so much that they're like crappy, but the guy before me cut them down and shortened them, and the leverage ratio is way off, and then one of his welds broke when I was testing this thing out. So we're also going to go with some floor mount Wildwood pedals. So this right here is just going to be my clutch pedal, very simple, master cylinder bolts right on, bolts to the floor. We've got an adjustable pad here to kind of play with your pedal height and spacing and all that stuff. Should be pretty easy to mount and set up. For the brake pedal, I did go with a dual master brake pedal to plan for the future when I do have front brakes on this thing. And if you ever played with these before, they've got a kind of a ball joint in the center and a balance bar so you can work on the front to rear brake bias. I think it's going to be important in this buggy because the front wheels don't do a whole hell of a lot. The rear do most of the braking, and trying to nail that ratio with just master cylinder to caliper pressure ratios or surface area ratios is going to be kind of tough. So I think the balance bar will be helpful for that. Finally, the last component is going to be a Wildwood clutch slave cylinder. This is a pull type slave cylinder. So basically this thing gets shorter as it sees fluid flow from this side. At the end of the day, guys, all this crap isn't cheap, and I do spend a lot of time working on this stuff and then further like making videos, editing videos. It takes a lot of time. I'd be doing this stuff anyway, no lie, but if you can like and subscribe and comment, whatever, if it gets my videos more exposure, that would just be cool. All right, that's enough babbling and crying. Let's get started. So right off the bat, you know I'm looking for cheap rotors on Rock Auto that are gonna do the job, not break the bank. So what I first started with was like an old Subaru rear rotor, because obviously the bolt pattern works and the center bore works, but with the design of my trailing arm, this thing's just got too much hat on it, right? See how much offset is in the rotor with the drum that's built in, all that crap? It's gonna rub my backing plates here, and it just doesn't work with the design of my trailing arm. So then I just dropped a massive like $14 on these Dodge Neon, first gen Dodge Neon rear rotors. I'm actually familiar with these. I used to run them on my Beretta way back in the day. But anyway, you bore out this center hub to fit the Subaru rotor, and you have a perfect fit for exactly what we need. All right, doesn't interfere with the trailing arm, covers the bearing up nicely, and it's just about 3/8 of an inch wide, which is perfect for the Wildwood calipers that I've spec'd out for this. All right, so I wanted a sandwich design with the main wheel bearing. That way I know these two surfaces are parallel to each other as needed, right? The axis of rotation of the wheel and then the back side of this surface are both on the same plane, and that's why I laid this thing on its face and milled it. That way that this face and the tabs in which the caliper will be bolting to are on the same plane. You know, this is a 1/4 inch plate. You can't just have a 1/4 inch worth of thread. I need at least a full 3/8 worth of thread for a 3/8 fastener. So this is a 1/2 inch spacer. Gives me all that thread to hold the caliper on. And then finally, I did have to come in here and mill these pieces out because of the lip on the back of the Dodge Neon rotor. And then you can kind of see how that plays out. So it's very close to the rotor, but I'm okay with that because I'm getting maximum thread engagement out of the caliper, which is important. I can Loctite that and that thing won't go nowhere. So the rotor is nicely centered up within the caliper. The caliper is square and true to the rotor. So the pads are going to bed in nice and easily. And hopefully it clears the caliper. All right, so you guys are seeing this for the first time, as am I. I've never had a chance to test fit this. Brake caliper clearance looks excellent. I have about a 1/2 inch at the smallest point. So it's packing a pretty decent sized rotor into a 14-inch wheel with this dual piston caliper. And then width-wise, you can see that front tire there, we're very close. Now what I do see is that my clearance between my tire and the part that's gonna go up to where the torsion bar used to go, I have about 2 inches of clearance there. So I probably could reduce the size of that intermediate spacer to bring this in if I need to. Honestly, I want this thing to be as narrow as physically possible, yet still be stable. As I wait for the new brake brackets to dry, I just finished welding and painting them. I want to get this trans off of here and start working with the clutch. And this will be the first time ever taking off the trans with the motor still in here, so we'll see how that goes. Oh man. Alright, get the trans mount out like that. That ain't so bad. Now, if I did my pre-work correctly, this should all be a pretty straightforward, not dramatic process because I decided early on to go with the entire Subaru clutch, pressure plate, and flywheel setup. So this should be pretty simple. Also, yeah, we're running the Subaru pilot bearing. If you guys have any questions on that, scroll back a couple videos. There's a whole episode on how I got to this and how this is on this engine. Kind of cool stuff. So anyway, I'm gonna bolt this up, get a fork in the trans, clutch fork, and then we'll start working on how to make this hydraulic. This is a Subaru, actually a cable clutch, what I call a cable clutch push style. And I'm not a Subaru guy, so I really don't know what all the technicalities of these are. You pop that on, there it is. And then your bearing slides over top of it. And now you've got this clutch actuation here, just like that. My plan is to utilize the Wildwood clutch cylinder here. Basically, this thing is pretty well made to take the place of pre-existing cable clutches. I think having a cable clutch trans is actually going to work out in my favor this time. Sometimes things turn into side projects, but they're all for the right reasons. I built this trans, I don't know, probably a year ago now. And ever since I put it together for the last time, I noticed a little bit of excessive drag on the input shaft. And I wanted to figure out what's going on with that and fix it. So while I had this out dealing with the clutch and all that crap, I split the trans again, pulled it all apart, figured out my issue. Now I'm putting it back together. But it's these little things that can eat up your entire day, entire night, but it's got to be done right. If I didn't fix this, I probably would have got this bearing extra hot, and this trans would not have lasted. Those studs are just worth their weight in gold. Still is over 100 pounds, just awkward maneuvering, so. It's starting to look like a functional vehicle. We are getting closer with every step. And this is what I've been dreaming up in my little head. Just trying to put it into physical pieces of metal and make this all work. These trailing arms work great. They don't have all that stiction that the old bushings used to have. 69 inches wide, nice. Now I do have the option to come in here about 1.5 inches per side. So narrowest I could possibly make this will be about, I don't know, say 66 inches or so. I'm not motivated to make any changes to that at this point. What happens up here is if I want to get any narrower up here, we really run into wheel to frame clearance. So it's like without arching the frame in, can I really even go any narrower up here? I don't know, but this is a very small buggy. Like now that it's sitting on the ground, this thing is small. And my feet are here, my back is here, and the rear tire's here. Had a couple of the Appalachian guys ask about wheelbase. This thing comes out to 96-inch wheelbase, which seems pretty short for a buggy. Let me know what yours come out to. I like short, I like narrow, I like small, I'm not complaining. I always thought these things were like over 100 inches, like 106 or something was a typical wheelbase, but not a buggy expert. Don't really know much about them other than this one. So yeah, 96-inch wheelbase, that's pretty cool, and that's extended a bit. I don't know, maybe 3 inches over a factory Volkswagen arm, so looks pretty good proportional. 8 foot, I could put some little extension ramps on the back of my truck and put this in the bed of my truck and not even need to trailer it, and that would be sick. So, you know, the smaller and lighter you can make the machine, the less horsepower you need. This thing, 150 horsepower stock. After a tune, I'm sure I can make almost 200 out of it, but this should be a little ripper. I'm excited. It's funny, I still got an axle strapped in here from last time. If anybody needs these, post in the comments before I scrap them. I got the trailing arms I built for the side-by-side wheels. They're already drilled for the 4x156 pattern. I got 2 good axles you can get you started with. Bolt it right onto any Volkswagen buggy and, you know, hit the trails. If you guys want it, please, I'd love to give them to somebody. I hate scrapping this stuff. Please let me know. An idea too, instead of having it up here, drop it down a little flatter with the floor. Just run some flat stock, you know, around here. Kind of set my pedal box on the other side of this post. That way these pedals all, you know, they're a little shorter, maybe a little less picking up on my heel. That's an option too. I'll consider that. All right, got the pedals bolted to that plate now. I like it. Let's see if it's comfortable. Well, let me tack it first. That'll work, but man, I am stretching a little. Honestly, I'd love to have them 1 inch closer my way. But we've got that cross member there. I'm gonna leave it because in the back of my mind, I was really thinking about moving my seat up 1 inch or 2 to give me a little more room to build an engine firewall. And I think this might be a good opportunity for that. This throttle is so cheesy. I mean, it really has like minimum travel. That's all it's got, and it is just cheesy. I'm gonna see what I can do with this, but I do have a backup plan that I've seen some guys do where they'll actually put a standard throttle pedal in here with a cable and run it somewhere remote, and then cut this and put a cable in here and just actuate the throttle with a cable. It's just so long and weird. It really just doesn't vibe with what we're doing here. Alright, this needs to be rotated more, but I actually like rolling my foot down on it. I'm gonna flip that thing way up. It's gonna look weird, but that's got some potential. Man, don't knock it till you try it. That looks so stupid, but it actually works. It's a little bit of a stretch at wide open throttle, but nothing we couldn't work with there. All right, full travel, no problem. Easy move over to the brake pedal, back to the gas. I can heel toe it very easily. You know, clutch pedal, lots of room here between clutch and brake. Lots of room between gas and brake. Other than this looks ridiculous, it's actually going to be very comfortable to drive. Basically, I replicated the contour of the factory firewall, and I built these pins here that capture the top of the pedal. So it's just a single bolt here, and that pedal goes away. You put another one in. Looks good, fits my feet, it works. It's not, I'm not like, I'm gonna give this like an 8 out of 10 on the perfection scale. It could be better, but if I spend all week trying to make this perfect, we'll never get this buggy running. So this is a fully functioning pedal set that will get the job done. Maybe in the future, I may actually, ironically, a wheel, like the old school pedals, would actually do a very nice job on this. So maybe that's an option. Maybe putting a real throttle pedal in here with a cable, pulling on this in a remote location would be an option. Got a couple options. Oh, here we are. First time seeing the outside world in about 2 months. My shop is destroyed and I got to get back to some standard auto repair. So she's sitting back on her own tires again. I still need to plumb the brakes, and then we're getting into some wiring. I'll probably spare you the boredom of doing that and just get that stuff done. We are getting mighty close to testing this thing out though. I am very excited seeing it, you know, mostly assembled, sitting here with that drivetrain in it. It's nice to see my little brainchild come together like this. Look Looks pretty good. Still got to build a rear crash bar and all that stuff and finish welding. So yeah, fuel system's going to be the next heavy hitter, most likely, as well as, you know, mounting a battery in it, and then wiring and plumbing. But other than that, we are very close to starting this thing up and putting it around the yard in first gear, of course, because I don't have a shifter yet. And shifting is going to be challenging. That might be an episode of its own. Stay tuned, but we will get it done. Thanks for watching Spank Ranch Garage. Keep the comments coming. It keeps me motivated. I'll see you next time.